All right, hopefully you guys are doing well. We're going to start off with the market review as usual, very quick one. And then we're going to get into the psych bits. This is the psych stream I was talking about doing for the past couple of days now, talking about basically keys to profitable mindset, obviously, and it's more catered towards those who are very close to the profitable stage and are still seeking maybe some wisdom. So it won't be too long, but I do want to get some things off my own chest in terms of that specific topic and help as many people as I can. So as usual, this will be recorded. So if you want to go back in later and watch it, you can, or if you have to miss some of it, perfectly fine. But we'll start off with the market review for today's price action. So on a higher time frame perspective, obviously today we had no news. So you're looking more for macro time entries and kind of intra-session liquidity if it permits. Otherwise, whatever the higher time frame is pointing to, we're going to continue to use that. We had the previous weekly low, both as targets for the session today. We also had a couple other external range of liquidity down here you could use. And obviously down here, that's what we're reaching for most likely right now, especially on the daily chart. Got this daily order block. But on a 1 hour chart, coming into the session today, I don't think it was terribly hard to see a bearish bias coming at least into the session. We have a bunch of resting sell side liquidity from the previous day right in here. So previous daily low. New York, or sorry, at midnight we'd opened up, traded back up into a premium inefficiency, as well as the new week opening gap, dropped down with displacement again, formed an inefficiency, filled it, dropped back down, and printed pretty heavily going into 9 a.m. So I had no stream today, but I had taken some trades off of stream and away from the public part of it, but just so I could focus up for today. So my bias was bearish, executions as well. Bearish, I don't think, like I said, terribly hard to see that unless you were looking at all of this, but just reading the order flow and what we're seeing at midnight on the 1 hour chart for the day, right? The daily perspective is using the 1 hour chart. What do you see? Well, respective bearish order flow, formation of new gap, respecting the new gap, closing heavily, and then 9 a.m., 10 a.m., where are we likely to go to, So previous weekly low is obviously an important key time-based liquidity pool that we could be hunting. And then any ERL targets as well, we're going to be hunting because of the fact that we came from a gap here and a gap here. So both being used as inefficiencies to liquidity. One here, previous daily low, previous weekly low, and then the Friday's daily low as well. All our valid liquidity pools, as well as the new week opening gap that we have here. On the 15-minute chart, pretty standard stuff. I don't think is terribly hard to see. Let me mark out this gap really quickly. Same exact thing going on kind of here. Let me turn on this one. Yeah, fair value gap order block trading back into during the 9:30 open. So 9:30 trades up, prints into the fair value gap, tags the bearish order block, drops back down. You have SMT most likely between those three. Right at 9:30, you can see right in here. So running out the Asian session high at 9:30, slightly after 9:30 actually, 10 o'clock. So you saw, you could use that SMT. You also could use the 9:30 SMT as well, right here at 9:30. We got SMT between these highs. So either one would have worked. You don't have to see that Asian high tagged. So SMT at 9:30, and then obviously all the targets that we were mentioning beforehand. Then we have retracement opportunities all given within the during the session. So 9:30 trades up, fills the gap, and you're looking for lower prices and obviously those liquidity pool targets we were talking about before. I'm drawing these out in here. So you have obviously the 9:30 total soup short if you want that. Drops back down, fills into the gap. Now, on a day with no news, our preferred entry would be what? The macro entries, of course. So with first presentation marked out here, you have the 9:30, 9:31, 9:32 first presentation gap. During the macro time, we trade up into that fair value gap right at 10:09 here. A little bit of weirder price action if you were to look at it. Obviously, it's retracing back into a reclaim fair value gap instead of it just using this inefficiency or this inefficiency, trading back up into the range. Macro time forming this swing high, and then it drops down again, retrades back into the bearish order block here, drops down again, and retrades back into the inefficiency here. Drops down again, retrades into, whoops, this inefficiency here. This would be like your proper silver bullet entry, mitigation plus fair value gap, and then obviously continuously giving more and more entries even into the 1050 macro as we continue lower. So all of this being used very cleanly on the way down. Multiple different entries. You have entry in 930, 940, macro time, silver bullet, and then eventually the 1050 macro. And then we do continue into post lunch and into the PM session right around 1500, forming the low, and then obviously continuing further in. So not a terrible lower time frame price action kind of day, multiple different entry points, and with a bias that I don't think was terribly hard to see. So in terms of executions and entries, you have multiple different opportunities. I was very late to the draw, only getting in around 12 o'clock today. And slightly before that, I was not able to look at the charts this morning, but nonetheless, still a solid setup. So plenty of things to look for and learn from. Tomorrow we have, I believe we have, what, 9:30. Let me pull a Forex factor really quickly. We have, FMC meeting minutes. So that's in the PM session. AM session shouldn't be too bad. But yeah, so looking for some clean price action tomorrow as well. And that's kind of the whole mark review. DN got some nice shorts. I like it. Beautiful setup. I love it. Wanted ES to take these highs. Was this a mistake on my end and only London session highs need to be swept? Looks like failure swing. Let's go to the 1 hour chart here. So if we mark out midnight opening price here, right, we're looking at, in order to go short or look for shorts, we have to engage one of two things, either an ERL or IRL, on the 1 hour chart, of course. So would it need to tag the previous daily high or any sort of liquidity pool from previous day? It wouldn't have to. The London session high is perfectly fine to be used. Even that swing high, if it wasn't London session, still is being used as a pre-value gap or a swing high prior to the 9:30 or 10 o'clock open. So since it's sweeping that, you still can use that as a liquidity target. And it's important that you brought that up because if you do see something like this in the future and you see all the requirements, SMT, displacement away from it, a fair value gap on the 3-minute chart, all those other things, and you're like, okay, it's unlikely at this point to come and take that swing high out, that's where you would adjust, right? So it's not about being completely perfect. It's about being flexible and knowing when to change things up if it needs to be. I have a very, you have a very loose bias normally in the morning. If you make it too rigid and constricted, you're not going to find a lot of trades. You may have one directional bias. You may have one specific draw, but in the beginning, the entry requirements may be slightly different. So I don't think it would need to come up into this. Obviously not, but it is a very good point, and you want to look for how those candle bodies are printing. If the SMT is there, if we could get this continued displacement and respective new PD arrays after, then that would be the requirement. You can say, okay, I don't need this to sweep anymore. I can start to look for shorts even after it's maybe later into the move. Right, enter the 3-minute fair value gap. Yeah, I don't think that's bad either. Right, the entry there, 3-minute fair value gap plus the order block, comes out, stops out. That's kind of August PA for you, right? Like it coming all the way up and not touching the swing high. Can you really predict that all the time? No, not really. Even here on NASDAQ, right? Oh, that's on MNQ. But yeah, it's just unfortunate. I mean, even the end of the macro time forming the high and then it drops down. So somewhat predictable, but is it reliable to just always put the stop at the swing high instead of the order block? Probably unreasonable to do that over and over again. So That's just part of that August PA that sometimes is annoying to trade and does these multiple entries and then it runs and leaves. So what can you do? You know. But anyways, yeah, that's kind of the market review for today. I don't want to make it too long. And then going into the psychology of things, I don't want to make this super long either, but it's going to be more catered towards, like I said, those who have potentially struggled with consistency, or you're striving to become a profitable trader. So like road to profitability, I guess. Profit to profitability, right? Is kind of this mindset that you need to cultivate. And I want to address some pitfalls and things like that, even as you are progressing, things to be mindful of, as they are landmines if you are not careful. So as you are, this kind of, I guess not lecture, but videos kind of catered towards those who are, you have a model that you probably trust in, and you know creates somewhat consistent but reliable entries and exits, and you think that, you know, for the most part, you can be profitable with that model. You know how to read the market. You know that given this model to someone else who maybe has more risk management or you may be lacking X, whatever it is, you have the model that works and you know will work if you are more disciplined or more X or whatever, right? You have probably at least 6 to 12 months plus in trading. You are probably in a evaluation or funded or something like that. And this period sometimes is what takes the longest, is this kind of transitional period from completely unprofitable, right? Where you kind of had no idea. It's this the Dunning-Kruger effect, where you have this peak of mountain of stupidity and then the slow grind back up to here. I find that here to here sometimes is the hardest, because of the fact that as you are slowly coming to that point where you're reaching your goal, it is very hard to sometimes accept that identity or even step into the new habits and new ideas of thinking that we normally are not kind of associating ourselves with. Originally, we're unprofitable. You now have a model and you now have the skill set that is required to be profitable. But now the mental is the thing that's lagging behind. You understand the technicals, but now every single time you take a loss, every single time something goes bad, you seem to blow up, right? You seem to do something stupid. You seem to overtrade, over leverage, and you're stuck inside of this cycle of either constantly in evaluation, constantly in funded, constantly hoping by maybe making a new model, or constantly trying to learn something in either psychology from short form content or from me or from whatever. We feel that doubt and uncertainty with trying to over progress or over optimize when it doesn't need to be optimized anymore. So the very, very slight period where, as you're on the come up from that bottom and you're near that goal, whatever it may be, how do we adjust our mental framework to make it as smooth as possible and quick as possible to finally be in that consistent state of mind, right? You're no longer chasing things. So I guess, what are the characteristics of someone who is like that? And what can you maybe find in yourself or adjust that maybe is required to finally become profitable? So I want to get out of the way that optimization. So let's say this: coping that mechanisms to fear you can kind of find themselves, these coping mechanisms, in multiple different ways. Okay, so the fear is basically you get to a point where you should be profitable, but you're not, for whatever reason, right? You know your model, you understand what's going on, psychology, meaning you know that when you do something stupid, you end up over trading or over leveraging, and you blow the account, and you know you're not supposed to be doing that. You still find yourself doing that. And like I said, you're maybe in that eval or funded stage. So the coping mechanism to that is eventually you have a lot of fear and doubt that you can't figure out what is making you unprofitable. So we fill that void with either trying to, let's say, over optimize, right? Trying to learn something new, either through psychology, through the model, things like you don't need, like trying to learn a whole different model that somehow is going to give you profitability. Sometimes it's by chasing more money, right? So sometimes what we do is, oh, if I only made this much, then I know that I'll be satisfied and I'll be able to act in a manner that is profitable, right? It could be straight out fear, so lack of trading, and you just sitting out for a very long time, months and months on end, not taking any trades and just trying to figure out what's going on. There's multiple different ways that this kind of fear and doubt can manifest itself as kind of distractions, I guess, instead of you focusing on the main thing, which is how do we actually step into being profitable? What is that key to profitability? So the way that you, number one, have to beat these things is obviously look at them head on. Is, okay, am I in a state where I should be making money from this, but I'm not because I'm scared of something that either my model won't work, my risk management won't work, I won't be able to control myself, whatever it may be, and then distracting yourself with these kind of things here. And I'm guilty of all of these. Maybe not so much the lack of trading, but I thought, oh, I'll be satisfied with myself if I make more money, right? So you stack more accounts. You get 7 accounts or 10 accounts, whatever. And it's like that number on the screen is like, oh, when I get more and more and more and more, then I'll be satisfied. Or you try to over optimize. Oh, I'm going to learn how to turtle soup and take top to bottom of the ranges or whatever it is. And we think that, oh, we'll be satisfied by that and that'll make us profitable. But what I didn't realize, and maybe what some of you don't realize as well, is that number one, you'll never be satisfied. And you can't chase anything that isn't learning slash improving slash executing a system. So there's no amount of money, there's no amount of payout, there's no specific point in trading that you're like, oh, I've made it, to be honest. You can hit a 4-figure payout, 5-figure payout, 6-figure payout, whatever it is, and you'll always feel like, oh, I have to keep going if you don't understand a couple of things. Okay, so number one, you will never be satisfied. There's no amount of money, there's no amount of trades, there's no bottom tick to top tick sort of thing that'll make you a profitable trader and be like, okay, now I'm profitable, right? Because if we look at the statistics of it, if you have a 99% win rate and a 1% loss rate, and you don't know how to treat that loss, you will 100% blow up, right? You could take 99 trades in a row. They're all winners. They're all 16R trades. And then as soon as you take that one loss because you don't understand the mechanics of trading and of yourself, that loss has the possibility and probably the potential to blow your entire account up. All right, so we have to completely reshape what we're focusing on and think about on a day-to-day basis that will make you into a, I guess, a profitable trader, right? And you hear it a lot, but it's 100% true. Is like you have to. Trading is not a cool game. It's not something that is very flattering or is sexy or is appealing in any manner. When you get to a point of, I guess, thinking abundantly, I spelled that wrong. But thinking, let's say, thinking abundantly, but also thinking that you have more than you have, I guess is the best way to put it. Basically, there's a plentiful and bountiful amount of setups and amount of money in the market and opportunities that you're just there to simply take what's yours and not anything else. And it's much easier to think like this once you have hit a payout. I think once you hit your first payout or first couple of handful of payouts, it kind of just becomes way easier. And I think that's because number one, because you realize it's possible. And number two, you realize that it doesn't require a whole lot of work. Profitable traders most times are not trading every day. Profitable traders are also not thinking about how long it's going to take get out of drawdown, how long they're going to do whatever. They're constantly thinking the fact that there's a plentiful amount of opportunities. So if you were to take $60,000 out of the market, I'm not going to look at that and be like, oh, I have to improve or beat this guy in some way, right? That's your own life. You make that money. I know there's enough money in the market for myself, and we both can go live our lives happily, right? So it's not about competing. It's not when you don't have to worry about money anymore. You don't really care what anyone else thinks or does, So we have to think like that before we are even there. And it's very hard to do because it's, in a kind of a way you're brainwashing yourself. But you have to think that there is more than meets the eye. There's more than what you have, and there's more opportunities than you see available. So, and the problem with if you don't think like this, then you think that every single move, every single trade that I post, every single trade that you see someone else post, every single setup that you miss was the setup that you missed, and now there's no way you're going to be profitable like this, right? We sometimes think, or the thing that I used to think was, there's no way that I'm going to be able to trade 1 to 2 times a day, or sorry, 1 to 2 times a week, manage my risk perfectly, and be able to get consistent payouts. I'm like, yeah, there's no way that I can take 1 to 2 trades a week and lose one, or maybe lose both, cut my risk in half, and then still be able to pass a eval or be able to get funded or get a payout, right? Like that, it just, to me, just didn't make any sense. I'm like, how is that even possible? I feel like you have to be, in a sense, 90% winning and 10% losing, and have a 6-6R ratio or whatever. But what you find is that this is 100% true. And once you have this system down of knowing exactly what your model is and knowing exactly what your risk management system is, you cannot think anymore. Like I don't, the more that I think in my own trading, the more I make mistakes, the more I go into drawdown. I am simply there to just look at the number, say, okay, this is how much risk I have today. Look at the setup, look at the market when it's there in the morning. If it's a solid popping out to me, standing up, like, take this setup, or I understand the bias, so I can come into the session and now I can look for that setup. I turn the charts off. I go enjoy my life. There's nothing in a bad day that I'm going to feel like I'm missing, because I know that I can trade every single day if I want to, but I don't need to. Nor do I actually should, because actually, if I were to trade all 5 days out of the week, I probably would have the same, if not worse, performance than if I just traded 1 to 3 times a week, or whatever the best opportunities was. Maybe there was 4 setups for that week. That's fine. But once you figure this out, you have a model that's written down, and you have some sort of risk management system written down, you stop thinking. Okay. So that means every single time that you think about, or at least for me, every single time that I would think about payout, that means getting a payout, passing, whatever it was, how long it's going to take to get out of drawdown, or dwelling on loss or a big win. Any of these thoughts here are mental pitfalls. All right. So if you find yourself, or at least for me, if I find myself thinking about any one of these things, it almost instantaneously has some sort of problem it creates. And I either lose a trade very next day or on that day, or I don't perform to the best of my ability, because I'm an athlete. You're an athlete in the sense of you're doing something that 99% of people don't do. So anytime you're dwelling on something that will not satisfy you, or you're chasing something that isn't learning, improving, or executing a system, that is completely what unprofitable, inconsistent traders do. There's only two people, right? You're either consistent or inconsistent. Only two ways. And the only way that you transition from one to the other is just by thinking. There's no difference between me and the unprofitable version of myself other than just a complete mindset. And if you don't believe that, you're not going to be successful in this, to be completely honest. If you constantly think that there's a model or some sort of this or some psychology tip that you're going to figure out that's going to make you beat all of your problems, it's simply just a mental shift. It's just one mindset over the other. Once you figure out that mindset and you see the results from it after like a week or a couple of months, you never go back, because it makes zero logical sense as to why you would ever go back, because you see the results that you finally were wishing upon for the past X amount of years or months or weeks. So instead, what we completely focus on all of this, because think about this: if you dwell on getting a payout, okay, that means every single day for maybe 7 to 14 trading days, you're thinking about the payout. Okay, so if you somehow manage to take a loss, what is that going to do? Oh, I'm further away from getting my payout, or I already was expecting that on this day I'm going to request a payout. Well, then that your expectation and your reality do not meet. Now you're going to feel threatened, and now you're going to try and fix the problem stupidly. Okay, and even when you do get that payout, right? Even when you get, if you somehow manage to do that, get lucky from 7 to 14 days, and you're like, oh my gosh, I finally get to this imaginary stage of requesting a payout, which, to be honest, should be normal, right? Like, it should be normalized. It's not, profitable traders are not like, oh my gosh, I'm getting a payout today. I mean, probably a little bit, but okay, you request it, you go to the website, you request your payout, and then what? And then what? You get a nice little, probably dopamine hit just from getting to that point. But then when you click request and it takes, by the second day, you're like, what now? You're not satisfied. And just getting one payout doesn't mean anything for you as a trader. Because it's not even a real thing. It's like this an imaginary line we have that if we cross that, we're somehow going to be this completely new person, or that line is going to solve all of our problems. But in reality, as soon as you request that payout, what are you going to have to work on 2 days after you get that payout hits? You somehow have to be consistent now. And what are you going to shoot for? The next payout, and then try and gamble your luck to see if you're going to be green every single day. Because if you're not, now it's going to cause this huge problem. Same thing with passing. Same thing with getting out of drawdown. Okay, you get out of drawdown, right? You take 2 losses. Okay, now you get out of drawdown. The goal of a trader and the job of a trader is to constantly manage drawdown. Right, so the next time that you get in drawdown, what you're going to constantly think about how many days and how many trades you have to take to get out of that drawdown. And you think you have a plan already. You already have that model. You already have that risk management system, but then you try to adjust it to get out of drawdown quicker, or to get a payout quicker, or to pass quicker, right? And a lot of this is based on this idea of impatience, where basically we do not have the patience to sit and draw on for a week or 2 weeks, or not get a payout for 4 weeks, or not pass the evaluation for 8 weeks. We want it now. We want it extremely quick, and that creates problems itself. So as much as this generates this negative thinking, and that negative thinking has the possibility of, changing rules or breaking rules when they don't need to be changed or broken at all. Right? So any time that I'm thinking about this, I know it's going to create this negative thinking, and then my mindset is already with a goal and willpower to hit one of these things. And these are all what? These are all outcome-based thinking. It's all outcome, right? But what you don't realize is when you're in this outcome-based thinking, is when that outcome occurs, then what happens? Are you still striving? Or have you arrived at that point where you're like, okay, now I can think in a way that I am someone who gets payouts. I am someone who does this. And now all of your habits and everything kind of just line up with that. But what you realize is, if anyone who is already in that stage, who has already taken, let's say, 5 payouts, knows their model, knows all they're thinking about is how they can continue doing whatever it is. And the only way that they continue doing whatever it is by probably three things. So any consistent trader is worried about probably three things. Number one, taking good entries. So making sure that they are, number one, skipping bad days, losing on good trades, and winning on good trades. And number two, managing and assessing risk. And number three, taking care of their mental. This is it, right? Because that person who's already getting these consistent things, in order for them to continue their lifestyle, in order for them to continue and reaffirm their identity of what they believe that is possible and what they are capable of doing, in order for them to probably eat, in order for them to pay for whatever, pay rent, they're focused on not getting the next payout, but rather this job, because this job will automatically grant you whatever you want, right? This will create positive thinking, and this is a loop. All of these are loops, right? This is a loop. This negative thinking creates a loop, because then what happens? You lose or you fail or whatever, and now you're worried about passing again, or now you're worried about getting a payout again, how long it's going to take to get that payout now that you failed. This has the same exact effect, which is just this positive reinforcement loop that continues itself. So the more that you focus on those things, and the more that you submit and let go, this is this exact thing of going from outcome-based to process-based. This outcome-based person, let's call them the inconsistent person, is constantly obsessed with this idea, I guess, illusion of control. Okay, you are playing a game where I cannot scream at the screen hard enough for it to move. I have no control over price action, right? If it wants to move somewhere, it's going to kill me and blow through every single wall that I have just to get to that point. So anytime you're trying to get a payout, anytime you're trying to pass or get out of drawdown quickly, or lose, or you're dwelling on a big loss or a big win, oh my gosh, I made this much money, or oh my gosh, I've lost this much money, you have this illusion of control, which is that I'm going to be able to say that without doubt, I'm going to pass on this date, or I'm going to get a payout by forcing myself to do so. You have zero control. You can only control a certain amount of things, right? It's like trying to drive a car and scream at someone else through your thing about their driving, whether or not to merge or whatever. You can try and honk, but the only thing that you can do is slam on the brakes or swerve or increase your speed or whatever it may be. The only thing that you can control is your car. You can't control the lights. You can't control the cars around you. You are simply just in your car. And the more that you rely on your own skill, you have no fear, right? You can't fear the things you can't control. And you don't fear the things that are outside of your control, which is, the things that basically you have no control over, or maybe some control over, which is basically just none. But instead, you're completely confident in your skill to drive, follow the rules, and that's going to keep you the most safe you probably ever will be. It's the only way. That's the only, there's no shortcut to it. There's no other system that's going to work other than just, okay, I have no control over anything but my own clicking of buttons. If I can actually do that properly, there's no, I don't have to think. I don't have to think anymore. And I don't want you to think of anymore either. Like, I don't have to constantly, if I take a loss, have, use 45 ounces of willpower to make me close out a trade, or not trade, or close out the whatever it is. It is simply just a byproduct of my belief and my submission to the system. I don't think, I don't fight against it. I don't try and reason with it. I don't try and tweak it or change or break the rules in any way, because of the fact that I am completely confident and submit and give up control to this external thing, which is basically math. I trust that 2 + 2 = 4, and as long as that is true, I'll be completely fine. you know? So I have completely submitted and completely just given up the outcome that I want, which is being profitable and obviously making money from this, to the system. And the system will do exactly what it needs to be. Anytime I try and tweak or break the rules or change the rules just because of what maybe this one time, never works. It is an everyday thing that you have to do this. So in this case, okay, boom, it's actually a benefit because now I don't have to think. Actually, the more that I think, the more that's probably inconsistent with my actual trading goals. The more I think about the rules, the more I think about any of these things, of course, it creates problems. So all you got to do is you wake up, okay, if say the bias isn't good, you turn off your phone or you turn off your laptop. You don't worry about how, because if you were to do that, oh, now I'm going to miss a setup. And what is that? You're thinking about how long it's going to take to get out of whatever or get to whatever. And if it's good, you don't worry about losing because you know that's just, it's part of it. You have to take the setups because otherwise, if you don't take them, well, then the numbers aren't going to play out. And what you do as a result is basically by submitting and giving up control, you're replacing your fear with faith and belief, right? So the more faith that you have, the more belief that you have in that specific system and risk management, the less fear you have. And the less fear you have, the less stupid things you're going to do because you're scared, right? You're scared about how long it's going to take. You're scared about how long it's going to get on a drawdown. You're scared that if I don't trade today, I'm going to miss X. You're scared that if I lose, I'm not going to hit X. You're scared that if you win too big, you're going to get greedy. You're scared if you lose too much, you're going to get fearful. All those fears and basically problems that it creates are wiped out and no longer exist, and therefore no longer can create any sort of issues in the future because you simply do not believe that it's possible for you to do that. You know, like I believe 100% that, okay, if someone is braking in front of me, I can swerve out of the way or I can stop my car. In the beginning, when you're learning to drive, it's not the fact that someone else is going to brake that scares you. It's the fact that you're not going to be able to control the car when a certain scenario shows up, right? So it's not actually your fear in that specific external event happening. It is your fear and your lack of control. It is your fear in the lack of your ability to do what is necessary when it's called for. That's the thing that we're scared of when we're first trying to learn to drive, or in this case, trading. You fear that if something goes wrong or if something doesn't match up perfectly with whatever our predestined or predetermined outcome is, we're losing control. And then we're now going to do everything in our power to get back into control. So what do? We try and either assert our dominance by over trading or over leveraging, or by fleeing from the situation and then not taking any trades at all. So fear is obviously, as you know, fear and greed are the main two things that are running this market. But I truly believe that fear is it, because you, in some way, if you're greedy, you're fearful of missing out or fearful of losing what you already have. So you become greedy to kind of combat that in a way. I think it's a fully fear-based market, which makes sense. But the more that you believe in your own skill, believe in the numbers, and have faith that there is plenty of opportunity, you, for some reason, you just magically, it's just weird, but you magically see the results that you want. It's hard in the beginning because the first week or the first 2 or 3 weeks, it may not be giving you the result that you want. But then if you can beat that, and after 4 weeks or whatever it is, maybe 5 or 6 weeks for you, once you see the result, you're like, this is exactly what it was all the entire time. And you made it so much harder than it needed to be. But if you're doing this for a hobby, if you're doing this because it's fun, or if it's, you're not seriously wanting to improve or actually get to this state, this consistency state, maybe you lost sight of the goal. You're just kind of trading. You wake up, you forgot what the goal was. And the goal was to freaking smash it out of the park and make enough money where you never have to think about it and not have to work for anyone ever again. That's the goal. So don't lose sight of that goal. So don't think that you have more time than you probably do. Don't think that it's impossible. Don't lose sight of, try and think that top ticking and bottom ticking and whatever it is the goal. The goal is to make money in this. So If you make money, I make money, someone else makes money. There's enough money for everyone. Your goal is to get in here and get out. And that's it. You know? So the more that you can believe and submit to that, you eventually you see the results. It may not be the next day, but I'm telling you, when you lose or 2 or 3 trades in a row and then you cut your risk, and then the 4th trade you hit with your cut risk, a really good trade, you wipe out all of those losses and then put yourself into profit, is one of the most satisfying things that you'll ever see. Because then that's one of the things that is kind of that motivation where you see, okay, if I actually do follow my rules and stick to this and just submit to that system, it actually will give me everything that I want. And that when you do that multiple times and see that over and over and over again, you get so much confidence and you get so much faith and belief in that outcome to be kind of guaranteed to you as long as you do these things, that you never think about all this other stuff, right? And what you do is you find yourself actually taking care of the mental environment. You have to be very self-aware, because if you find yourself dwelling on one of these things that are outcome based and actually have no meaning at all, then that's where you see your performance start to drop compared to this stuff over here. And there is no substitute, right? There is no substitute for discipline. But I don't want to make it seem like you have to be super disciplined in trading. I think it is just something that you are. Like, of course, you have to be disciplined, but I don't think discipline is difficult when it's habit, or it just makes complete perfect sense. If you have doubt in your mind that after you take a loss, you're supposed to turn off your computer, or after you take a loss, you're supposed to cut your risk in half. If you have doubt, any smidge or handful of doubt in that, that is where you're quote unquote undisciplined, or you break your rules. Is when you have that little bit of fear or doubt that, oh, if I were to do this, or if I were to just increase my risk today after I take that loss, I can get back to where I was. You're not going to be disciplined. But I don't think that discipline is the thing that, when you don't want to, there's of course there's a little bit of it, right? Because when you take a loss, no one likes taking a loss. But in some sense, yeah, you may have a little bit of that. Oh, if I just take a trade here, sure. So it does require a little bit of discipline, but I think not breaking your rules and not over leveraging and over trading, that just comes with identity. If you believe and have enough faith that, okay, yeah, why would I ever, there's no point in that, because every single time that I break my rules or tweak my rules or trade outside of my system or my risk management, I just always blow up. It's like, I'll never be profitable if I do these things. Until you get to that point, which is probably the pit of despair, where basically, yeah, anything that I try and do, or any shortcut that I take, or 1 day of rule breaking or 1 second of rule breaking that I have, completely nullifies all of my previous trading and basically puts me in the same spot that it always puts me in. When you realize, okay, there is no shortcut, there's only one way to do it, and the more that you stick to this way, it just rewards you with a positive belief loop and all the faith and belief to basically never be scared about something that's never going to happen unless you do it. You're never going to be inconsistent unless you choose to be inconsistent, or you choose actively to think about these things and not be self-aware enough to fix them. So that's why having such a good designed parachute, a designed model, and a designed risk management system is paramount, and actually sticking to it. Because if someone else designed it, or if you don't have full faith and belief in it, you're not going to stick to it. Okay. So obviously write down, so if you're scared of, I'm not going to be able to find multiple entries, then maybe you work on a lower time frame and you study a very high hit rate model that's very prominent, but maybe is less in RR. Or maybe you want to feel like, so cater your entry model and style to the way and the fears that you have, so you can somehow beat them. And then also design a risk management system that is statistically sound. So meaning, if I have X amount of drawdown available, see if you were to take a trade with Y size, and then you do Y divided by 2 size after you take 1 loss, and then Y divided by 4 size after you take a couple more losses after that. Ask ChatGPT to run a simulation of 1,000 trades using these rules, and tell me a percentage or probability of me to blow up, right? And even if you could look at just statistically, if you have a 70% win rate with like a 2R, the chance of you taking 5 losses in a row is probably like 0.2% of you taking 5 losses in a row. So now all you're concerned with now is, okay, I just have to take good entries. When I lose, I cut my risk. And when I win consistently, I'll increase my risk. So there's two sides of this. Is sometimes we get so concerned with, okay, if we get a loss, we have to get back to here, how long it's going to take. But in reality, what you also have to think about is when you get further into profit, now your original drawdown is like 2x. So when you grow the account enough, okay, now I can somehow, my drawdown originally was 2x. And we go back to this P&L curve of, it looks similar to this, where in the beginning it's very slow and you'll take a loss and you'll stop the bleeding. So every single time you take a loss, it'll stop the bleeding and it won't go like this, right? And then every single time you take a win, you'll be increasing that risk slightly to where it starts to get a steeper and steeper curve, where eventually this is a very exponential curve, your P&L. So sure, you may take a loss, you may go into drawdown, but when you cut that risk and all you have to hit is a 2R, it's much easier to get out. And then when now your account size is double what it was before, well, now your risk either can double, or actually what it could do is just go up by 25 or 50%. So now the chance of you blowing up is way less, but you're still using the same, if not slightly larger risk size. So your wins are bigger, and when you take a loss, it's actually less of your account than it was originally. And then what you see is just this exponential increase of profit. And I think once that comes to you see it, it's much easier to believe and have faith in it. That's why I say once you have multiple payouts, you're like, okay, this is easy. You kind of know what's going on. But if you can instill this before you see the results, that's where the real magic is. So in order to get out of this loop, you have to think a different way. That's it. And if you truly believe that you're just one step away from becoming profitable, you'll find it. If you think that you're always lacking 15 or 10 different things and you have to fix all these psychological problems and such, it may be true. You may be further along and you're further away from your consistency stage than probably you would prefer. But there's so much content on YouTube and these short form things that are just overcomplicating trading psychology. We think it's this law of whatever, that if you stack all these laws and somehow open your third eye, you become profitable. It's not like that. All right. And somehow regular people off the street can become profitable traders, and they don't have to have all this random access to everyone's take on trading psychology. I think it's very simple. You submit to a system that you believe in, it's easy. If there's a smidge of doubt, if there's a smear of worry or fear in that system, and that system includes both your entries, exits, and management of risk, you're not going to be able to believe it, trust it, and therefore you're going to self-sabotage because of that very reason. And that's really it. So it's about staying disciplined, but I think discipline is easy. Like I said, when it's habit, it is about cultivating enough belief and then changing your identity to really feel like you deserve and you're able to be profitable. Because if you don't feel like you don't deserve it, you're going to self-sabotage like that. If you feel like you maybe don't have the skills to do so, you're going to self-sabotage as well. But if you truly believe you have the skills and you deserve to be profitable, and you know that you have a killer risk management system, and you have basically, you're never going to blow up. That's all you need to know. You don't have to make tons of profit in 2 weeks. That's not what a risk management system is for. As long as you believe that you will never blow up, as long as you do this system properly, that you beat risk management. And then as long as you know that you have what's a successful model, 2R 40%. That's all you're shooting for. It's not, like I said, it's not interesting. It's not cool. It's probably ugly than what you want. But only these two things exist: inconsistent and consistent. So this is the line. If you can get that line, no one cares if you're 40% win rate. No one cares if you have a 2R, right? You're hitting 5-figure payouts once a week. No one's going to ask you a question, and you're not going to ask yourself a question either, because like, why do I care? It's only like unprofitable and inconsistent people that care about having a 99% win rate with a 13R average. Like, well, number one, it's not realistic, and nor is it needed. Like, why would I try and, become this crazy trader? Like, of course I would want to, and I'm going to see improvement over the years, but I don't have to be perfect to be profitable. 40% 2R. So, meaning, to summarize, profitable trader mindset, you're 100% submitting to a system. There's no room for thinking. There's no room for improvement. It's just system, think, you're the operator. You're the one clicking the buttons. You're the one driving the car. You know the car works. Okay? Submitting to the system, designing the system, and then for risk management, that means you have a belief that you're never going to blow up. It doesn't mean you're going to make tons of profit in the first week. And then a model that is minimum 40% win rate, 2R plus on average. It's not, obviously, this is never a perfect thing, but just on average, do you feel like you can read the market more than 50% of the time? And do you think that your winning trades are 2R? I think that most people could probably answer yes to that question. And then number 3, I guess, would also be being self-aware about what you let in and think on a daily basis. And sometimes this is what actually takes the longest, is you're actually not self-aware enough of the things that you think and generate and let into your brain that is actually affecting your psychology. Sometimes this is what actually it is just becoming more self-aware. So don't let garbage in, otherwise you get garbage out. That's basically what it is. So a lot of people who do take breaks from all of trading, social media and such, do find a lot of benefit in that, because you're not feeding yourself useless garbage. Even the stuff that you don't realize is garbage. Like, I'm so off of a lot of social media, but I do occasionally check Twitter, in case there's anything I want to repost. Or it's like 99% of that stuff is just all crap, because all you see is people's P&Ls. All you see is people's, I lost this money, or I won this amount of money, and then all you think about is this, right? If I were to think about, if I saw 50,000 ads about cheeseburgers on my phone and on my TV screen and on my laptop, I'd probably go buy one. That's how advertisement work, right? They put stuff in front of your brain long enough, and somehow you start thinking about that. So what you're doing is on social media, these types of, even on Discord, is if you flood your brain with that kind of stuff, of course you're going to think about this, right? And you may not be realizing, oh, I have the ability to I don't think like that. I defend my brain. You're not 100% of the time defending your brain. That's what stress is. Stress is like actively putting up a guard against some data that you know isn't true, or you're actively avoiding. Every second of social media or of Discord or whatever that you scroll, you're not going to be shielding your mind or being self-aware. So instead, you have to combat that by just not putting it in front of your eyes at all. And this is all it really is, right? So it's designing a system that you know works, submitting to that system, never looking back. You never think about it. And I promise you, if you have the discipline in this case to just do that for 2 weeks or 4 weeks, it's game changing, because you finally realize this is all it was, and there's no secret or shortcut or whatever. And it's like that Kung Fu Panda meme, the GIF, where he finally gets the dragon scroll, and he's like, he opens it up and it's just a mirror, right? And you find that every single problem that we create for ourselves was just this fear that we didn't notice, and then it cultivates itself into, creates itself into over trading and over leveraging, things like that. And it's never this amount of willpower or becoming a stoic or never thinking or whatever it is. It's you don't become, for sure become numb to things. I think you 100% become numb, but you believe and see enough that this works that you don't need this anymore. And it's just improving. It's adapting, as soon as you learn one way to throw a football or ride a bike or do anything that you find is a better way, there's a little bit of resistance in the beginning, right? First, your habits from the past start kicking in and you really are trying to learn this new thing. But then as soon as you learn it, you understand that that was a way that you acted. You know that you could do that if you wanted to, but this way is just so much better and you don't really worry about anything because that's your muscle memory now. And actually would take active thinking and doing and realizing of that previous habit or action for you to get the result of that action. So there's a transitional period of 2 to 4 to maybe even 6 weeks of you having to, oh my gosh, I can take control here and fix this problem, or I can take control here and get my drawdown or payout quicker. But if you're like, okay, I'm not gonna worry about it. Doesn't matter if I'm on loss number 3, I'm not gonna worry about it. I'm just gonna do what I need to do. And the next day, if there's no setup, you're not gonna take it because that's what this says. You just somehow you wake up in the morning, you read this piece of paper, you do what the piece of paper says, you get the result you want, and then you fold that piece of paper up and you put it back on your desk. And it's like a cheat code. Because once you figure it out, it's literally like a cheat code. Because like, why would I ever do the previous thing? Like this all required thinking and stressing and trying to over optimize and fix everything. And then this one was already fixed for you. It's something that works. It's reliable. It's boring, but it works. And being comfortable and fine with that is sometimes very hard to do because we want it to be super cool and in our way. But you're very disappointed in trading because you find you lose a lot of trades. You don't take a lot of trades. You win some of them. But then at the end of the day, you get a nice payout as a result. And you don't get any joy in getting the payout. It hits, and then what do you got to do? You got to do the job again. So sometimes if trading is all you do, you get kind of a problem with that because then where's you have all this time and thinking power left. Like, what do I do with this? So you have to find something to replace unprofitability with, to be completely honest. Find a hobby or something else that you like doing because trading becomes boring and does not require a lot of brain work after that. It's like riding a bike. Um, but yeah, it's I can put it in front of you and you can hear other people's yap about it and everything. But at the end of the day, it is up to you. So you have to see, okay, do I really want this? And am I okay with leaving away and leaving behind the old way of thinking to get to the goal that I wanted? And the goal is to 100% make money. The goal is not to be perfect or be right or to do whatever. Your job is just to become a consistent, process focused, not thinking trader. It's literally just to become a soldier. Like you're literally just there to follow orders, not think about it, not fight against it, follow your orders, you get the results you want. But in this case, you're the sergeant. You're the one designing the parachute, you're the one giving yourself orders. So unless you have full faith and belief in that, otherwise you're going to have a very high amount of friction and resistance against that and try and take matters into your own hands. It goes back to the illusion of control. All right. So it's not hard. It doesn't need to be hard. It should be very easy. And this is all it takes. Okay. It's hard in the beginning because we don't have a model or we don't even believe that we can read the market properly. Boom, you solve that. You don't believe you have risk management, probably because you never manage risk properly. You got to fix that. But once you know with your whole mind, body, soul that this is who you are, it's just inevitable at that point. Takes 4 weeks, maybe, boom, payout. Then 2 weeks after that, payout. And every single payout after that is bigger than the one previously was. Easy peasy. All right. So think and focus and ingrain into your mind that you do this. How can you ingrain it into your mind? Every single day when you wake up and when you go to sleep, you write these things down and you say that I am constantly managing my risk and profit and drawdown. I only take good trades and skip bad ones. This makes me a profitable. Okay. And what you do is when you go to sleep, when you wake up in the morning, you type this out, you write it down, or you read it out loud. Only three things. There's no reading silently in your head. You either say it out loud, you write it down, or you type it out. Once in the morning, once at night, whilst you are already doing all the other things. Okay. This is in the sense just self-hypnosis and this brainwashing that you were doing by looking at Twitter. Instead, you're making good use out of it. And you're going to convince yourself with doing these actions that you now are someone, or you believe that this is true. It's not. This is what auto suggestion is. This is what Think and Grow Rich talks about. Basically, you spam this in your brain 2 times a day for 30 days straight. You read it out loud with belief. Don't just read it out loud just to read it out loud, but read it out loud and convince yourself that it's true. Like envision that it's already true. And then you do this. So you do this, and then you add this together. That gets you profitability. Just like that, all your worries and stresses and whatever are all, in a sense, kind of wiped away, because now you're a profitable trader. You don't really got to worry about much. And it's on to the next thing. Okay. Trading is just the means to an end. Is not, I mean, it can be the end all be all for you, but once you beat trading, at least for me, I'm very competitive. I want something to beat, whether it's my beliefs or whether it's trading or someone that's, someone, a doubter or whatever. You got to find something else then you want to beat and put that mind working again, because you don't really have to think after this. It's very weird. It's such a weird thing, but like literally the more that you think and the more that you try and take control, the less trading results you get. The more that you don't think and just almost give up control and be like, yeah, all right, I really don't care. Like, it's like you just don't care at all. It just somehow works. It's very, very weird. It's not like anything else I've ever done, where basically the more that you don't care, you just get results. So there's no amount of YouTube videos or gem that you, as soon as you watch that gem, you're like, oh my gosh, I have the key to profitability now. It's not like that. It's by repetitive action. It's by constant work that a lot of times that you get this identity from, or you can try and convince yourself of that identity right before it's happening. And this, like I said in the beginning, this is catered to those who are very close to that stage. If you're new or if you do not have the experience, this is something that you can still watch and probably take to heart, but you're simply going to lack the amount of skill that is required to have unwavering faith and belief in a model. You don't have a system that is designed enough to where you can actually trust and subconsciously believe that that's a perfectly working model. So if you're not at that point, it's just not going to be possible. So your job is to absorb data and absorb learning from as many people as you can, who are reliable, and make your own model and approach. So if you're still in that stage, it's not something you have to worry about yet. But those who are already have the model, already have plenty of time in trading, and are maybe in this stage, but for months or maybe years you're unprofitable, this is what you got to do. See if it works. If it doesn't work, then I may be wrong for you. This is what worked for me, and kind of the conclusion that I can bring about from my own personal journey, which is the more that I cared and more try and think and take control, the more I lost. The more I just believe that, okay, I'm good enough. I don't need to take every single day of trading. There's plenty of opportunity. All I got to do is just take a good trade and cut my risk when I lose. It's easy as that. Yeah, I can take a screenshot of this. Hopefully this is good enough. I'll screenshot this. Of course, this is all being recorded as well, so you can go back in and watch it. But that's really it. And I wanted to bring about this because it's very important, obviously, to me that you all succeed, but even more so that if I can cut some of the time out that is required for you, that is my goal. I'm not trying to make you trade the way that I trade or take the trades that I do or manage risk or whatever. But I do think that all profitable traders probably could agree with this, that that the more that they think and try and focus on these things, the more that it runs for them, and the more they focus about these things, it just becomes super easy. So don't chase anything that doesn't have a end, right? If you're constantly chasing money, whatever it is, over optimization, you'll never be satisfied. Payouts, you'll never be satisfied. Just chase the one thing that is always going to kind of satisfy you, which is just becoming the best trader you can be and focusing on actually improving your own skill set. And that's it. Simple as that. All right. So I don't want to take too much more of your time out. It's already been going for about an hour somehow. Appreciate you guys sticking around and listening. And obviously, if you've got any questions about psychology or things like that, we do psych streams about once a week. I'll probably do a Q&A/psych stream, of course, later this week. Maybe Friday or Saturday. I'll let you guys know. But I love the psych stuff. I love cracking people down and figuring, because I see myself in every single bit of doubt and fear and worries in any unprofitable trader or any part in your career. There's people who can help you. So don't feel like you're by yourself or struggling to find anything in terms of technicals or psych. That's what this Discord is for. So whole lot of stuff on the screen. I hope it was beneficial to you and hopefully brought about some peace of mind, thinking that you don't need to be perfect or anything. You just have to be smart in this, and being smart does not require a whole lot. Obviously, if you've got any questions, you can shoot me a DM. But for the private group people, we'll probably be streaming tomorrow and Thursday for the tape reading. And then Friday is kind of if price action is good. So the morning bias will be crucial for me on Friday. Otherwise, if you're not in the private group, we will have another Q&A/psych stream sometime this week. All right, so journal if you haven't already. Make sure you're doing everything that is required to succeed. And if you really want it, you'll get it. If you don't really want it, you're doing this for a hobby, you're just doing to have fun, it's not going to happen. You have to actively fix and improve. All right, one last question and we'll wrap it up. I understand to obviously try not to focus on outcome-based thinking, and it's easier said than done. But how do you literally ignore the payout and your funded account balance? Is there anything you do to ignore it completely? Because it definitely affects my psych, knowing I'm close to a large payout, but then fumble close to it. I mean, to me, it's the way that I've kind of think about it is that last sentence right there sums it up. Anything you do to ignore completely, because it definitely affects my psych, knowing I'm close to a large payout, but then fumble close to it. I've fumbled way too many payouts and accounts to let that happen again to me. Like, to me, it's like, okay, the fact that even if I even think about it, I know I'm going to ruin it. But you can't just not think about something, right? I tell you not to think about a pink elephant. You're going to think about it. It's going to pop into your head. So what do? You have to, number one, of course, not think about it, but then you have to replace that thinking and logic with something else. So to me, it's the obvious fact that if I actually dwell on anything other than the process, because what happens if you do take that huge payout? Like I said, it's great. It's cool. It's like, oh my gosh, I just hit this first 5-figure payout. But then as soon as that payout hits, you're going to go back to what? Thinking about, getting another payout. But then you're never going to be satisfied, and actually thinking about that payout throughout the next 14 or 15 days is going to blow your account up. So to me, it's like, I know that 100%, if I were to think about that, the obvious truth is I'm probably going to mess up. So of course you have to not think about that, but then you have to be completely convinced and replace that idea of logic of the only way I'm ever going to be profitable, the only way I'm ever going to be profitable and consistently profitable is if I just focus on doing the right thing. Either taking the good trade, not taking a trade, or cutting my risk when I need to, or increasing my risk when I need to, and not thinking about it. That to me is like, I'm not going to say, oh, turn off your dollar amount on your trades. I have the dollar amount on my trades. That's not going to do anything for me to like not think about the money. I'm already going to be thinking about it. Sure, of course, that it may help a little bit, but it's still underlying the fact that you may be actively worrying about that kind of thing, that's not going to help. So if you just really look at the data and you're like, yeah, every single time that I've thought about an outcome, it just has not worked for me. That's the honest truth of it. There's no other shortcut or method of beating that logic. Then, okay, then I got to focus 100% on taking good trades, not taking bad trades, and just managing my risk. And that's the replacement. And you have to be very, very self-aware, like I said. So if you find yourself, oh, I'm starting to think about, oh my gosh, I'm going to see $15,000 in my account tomorrow. What you're not going to be able to, I mean, you're not really going to spend it the next day. And in order to continue that lifestyle, you still have to do the same exact thing you just did 20 days in a row to get to that result in the first place. So there's no, that's like I said, there's no like magic sauce other than just completely reshaping and replacing what you already think about and believe. And the more that you can flood your brain with that idea and logic, the more that it comes to your subconscious and just is automatic. You're like, why would I ever think like that? Because it doesn't give me the result I want. Simple as that, you know? And like, okay, that method of logic and way of thinking doesn't apply to me anymore. I no longer need it. You accept you once thought like that, you no longer need it, get rid of it. Right? First, you have the training wheels, then you learn to use it without the training wheels. You're never going to put the training wheels back on. You acknowledge that you use them, but you don't need it anymore. You know? So it may not be the answer you're looking for, but it's probably the honest one. Is, there's no magic sauce, there's no whatever. It's just replacing instead of using your complete willpower to defend that that way of thinking. So the more that you release control and just give up and submit, tap out, it all flows in. All right. So last question, but hopefully that helps. So take care tonight. Eat dinner if you didn't already. Get some good sleep for tomorrow. And we'll be back for the private group streaming in the morning, hopefully taking some solid setups. All right. So I appreciate you guys always joining and listening to me yap. I know I'm not probably the most entertaining person with my monotone voice, but I'm sure it helped at least one person. So I'll catch you guys soon. Until next time, take care and peace.